think on the most immediate level, yes. I think that insofar as we experience an intersubjectivity with food and feelings of elation and bliss, that there's some ways in which we can imagine or we experience love, or that love happens comparably. However, I don't believe that it, at least from my own experience, that it in any way approximates the kinds of experiences that at least I've had with humans. Because I think that the visceral electritude of love, the intensity, through the kind of wonderfully symbiotic, syncopated feedback loops that can happen, and also the kind of co-relational, communal feed-forward flows that people experience when falling in love or when in love so far exceed anything that I've had with objects or food, that I think that while there's maybe a spectrum, I don't feel like they occupy the same places or potential places. Although I don't want to in any way underestimate or suggest that it's not there and it can't be there for other people. Perhaps in their relationships with animals or with food or with coffee or whatever else it might be, or even perhaps with certain drugs. I've written a play about humans' relationship with animals versus humans called The Wolf Daddy, in which I explore the extent to which we imbue objects with consciousness and subjectivity in humanoid ways. Like, do we feel worse for smaller animals when they die or bigger animals? At some point, if the animal gets really big, like a whale, do you feel worse about a whale having a tragic accident, or a monkey? So somehow there's some way in which that we tend to compare, at least in terms of space, times, and scale, maybe even proximity, and then by extension sort of consciousness and subjectivity, are humanistic qualities to those of objects and animals. So just to kind of repeat, like that, I think that if a squirrel gets run over, people typically feel less bad about the squirrel than they do about a dog. I think they'd feel worse about a dog or even a deer, and then maybe even less so for a giraffe than they might feel for a whale or a hippopotamus. But maybe the worst thing is more is worse, because then if more of something then ceases to exist, or then becomes transposes into something else and maybe transducts, that we feel that somehow that's worse as well. But then if you think about humans and how we feel about each other, that we tend to feel that worse about a baby or a small child dying tragically than we do about an adult, because then it becomes about potential. We think, oh, this person has all this potential, and this goes back to something we were talking about earlier when we talked about the mystery that people promulgate about themselves in order to increase interest, right, and chances for surprise. Like there's a draw. Well, I think that same idea goes with babies and children in terms of potential, because there's a mystery as to what they can contribute. But then you might also think about that when someone that's older dies, people often say, well, how old was she or he? And if they were maybe over 70 or over 80, then they can feel comfort in the fact they lived a long life. But at the same time, there seems to be less priority placed on the fact that these people have accumulated knowledge and wisdom over such a long period of time, and they have so much, in many ways, more to offer society based on their past experience than the untested contributor or contributions of a 5-year-old, who we don't yet have the test of time to see how valuable that person is to contribute to the social world. So what I really don't understand is that why, at least in American society, why people don't care more about older people, when older people have experienced so much more and have so much to offer and have learned, so much over the years, and yet for some reason, there's a privileging of youth and a turning to the youth for answers. When how often, I think that, would you be more inclined to see a doctor that's had years of experience to diagnose your illness, or somebody who's fresh out of medical school that's had very little experience but has the vivacity of youthfulness, at least however on the surface? I don't know. I think that my own inclination is to defer to the person with more experience for advice than the person with less. And so if you consider that in terms of our relationships, then you might wonder why it is that we so much privilege younger versus older. And I think it often has to do with our economy, that it's what we get back, is that it takes a lot more effort to take care of an older, aging, dying person, and they much more reflect our own inevitability of death than a younger person does. So what we do is we compromise. We, rather than privilege the wisdom of age, because it reminds us of our own mortality, we sacrifice what we could learn from that person in the interest of celebrating youth, because we believe by extension that our investment in youth is going to somehow contribute to our own continued youthfulness and rejuvenation. Thank you for being interested in anything I have to say at all, and that you took the time to do this, I think, is a great gift to me. Thank you.